Butchers used to throw away the cuts that top chefs now charge $40 a plate for. And the reason why that happened and why it's reversing right now is stranger than most people realize. Stick with me, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly which forgotten cuts to ask for, why they taste better than most premium steaks, and how to cook them like a professional. Welcome to the Meat Authority. Today we're going full nose to tail, and I mean all the way. We're talking about the parts of the animal that got quietly erased from supermarket shelves over the last 50 years, and why the smartest cooks in the world are bringing them screaming back. Let's start with a little history, because it actually explains everything. For most of human history, wasting any part of an animal was simply not an option. Peasants, ranchers, working families, they broke down the whole animal and used every last scrap. The offal, the marrow bones, the cheeks, the feet, the tail. These weren't poverty food in any shameful sense. They were survival food, and generations of cooks turned them into some of the most deeply flavored dishes ever created. Then, somewhere around the 1950s and 60s, industrialized meat production hit full stride. Supermarkets wanted clean, uniform, easy-to-package cuts. Ribeyes, sirloins, chicken breasts, the stuff that photographs well under fluorescent lighting. Everything else got pushed to the side, ground into pet food or exported. An entire vocabulary of cuts started disappearing from the average kitchen. Here's the open loop I want you to hold on to. There is one specific cut that was so widely abandoned, it literally has a different name in almost every country. And when you find out what it is and taste it, you're going to be furious you didn't know sooner. We'll get there, but first, let's talk about what nose to tail actually means in practice. It's not just a trend phrase, it's a philosophy rooted in respect for the animal, for the craft of butchery, and honestly, for your wallet. When you learn to work with the whole animal, you unlock incredible flavor at a fraction of the cost of prime cuts. We're talking about cuts with more collagen, more marbling in unexpected places, and more depth of flavor than most people ever experience from a standard supermarket steak. Let's walk through the tier system, starting from underrated and working up to genuinely life-changing. First up, beef cheeks. If you've never had braised beef cheeks, you are missing one of the great easy wins in all of cooking. The cheek muscle works constantly. The animal is literally chewing all day, which means it builds extraordinary amounts of collagen and connective tissue. When you apply low, slow heat, all of that collagen converts to pure gelatin. The result is meat that is silky, unctuous, almost impossibly tender, with a deep, beefy richness that a filet mignon simply cannot compete with.
Beef cheeks are cheap, they're forgiving, and they will absolutely ruin you for boring cuts forever. Now here's your first butcher's secret. When you're buying beef cheeks, ask your butcher to trim the silver skin for you. That tough outer membrane won't break down the same way the collagen does, and if it's left on, it can make the texture uneven. A good butcher knows this. That one ask separates a great braise from a perfect one. Next level, the oxtail. This one is making a massive comeback, and for good reason. Oxtail is all bone, cartilage, and richly marbled meat wrapped around a thick vertebra, and when you braise it low and slow, it produces some of the most deeply savory, gelatinous, soul-satisfying cooking liquid you'll ever taste. Oxtail stew, oxtail ragu over fresh pasta, Korean oxtail soup called gomtong, where the broth becomes this milky white, collagen-dense liquid that chefs are now calling the original bone broth. The flavor is extraordinary, and it costs a fraction of what short rib runs at the butcher counter. Let's pause here for a second, because I want to ask you something directly. When was the last time you went to a butcher and asked for something you'd never cooked before? If the answer is never, or if it's been a while, that's actually the whole point of this video. The knowledge gap is the only thing standing between you and some of the best meals of your life. Now we're getting into the territory where things get genuinely surprising. Hanger steak. You may have seen this on restaurant menus, but most home cooks have no idea what it is or where to find it. Here's the thing. There is exactly one hanger steak per animal, just one. It hangs between the rib and the loin, suspending the diaphragm, which is why French butchers called it the butcher steak, because for decades butchers kept it for themselves rather than sell it. It has a coarser grain than an NY strip, but an absolutely explosive beefy flavor, with marbling that punches way above its price point. Marinate it simply, cook it hot and fast to medium rare, slice it against the grain, and it will stop people in their tracks. And this is the cut I told you about earlier, the one with a different name in almost every country. In France, it's anglais. In Britain, it's the butcher steak. In parts of the US, it gets mislabeled as skirt steak. In Argentina, they've been grilling it as entraña for centuries. Same cut, total identity crisis, absolutely unreal flavor. Now you know. Here's your pitmaster's tip for hanger steak. Because it has a central membrane running down the middle, Always ask your butcher to remove it or do it yourself before cooking. If you cook it whole with the membrane in, one side will contract faster than the other, and you'll get uneven doneness. Split it into 2 lobes first. That's the difference between a good cook and a great one.
Now let's go to the cut that is escalating in price faster than almost anything else right now, because word got out: the flat iron. Technically, it comes from the shoulder, the chuck, which is normally associated with tougher, slower cooking meat. But the flat iron is a seam cut, meaning a skilled butcher isolates it by following the natural muscle boundaries rather than cutting straight through. When that connective tissue is removed, what's left is one of the most tender and well-marbled cuts on the entire animal. It's second only to the tenderloin in tenderness, costs a third of the price, and has 10 times the flavor. Restaurants discovered this about 15 years ago. Home cooks are only catching up now. And here is where everything we've talked about today connects into something bigger. The nose-to-tail movement isn't just about being thrifty or adventurous. It's about understanding that the animals raised for our food deserve to be used completely and with intention. When we reduce an entire cow down to 4 or 5 cuts, we're not just leaving flavor on the table, we're creating a system that economically forces producers to waste. Learning these cuts, asking for them, cooking them, creates real demand that changes how the supply chain works. That's not a small thing. Before we close, one more piece of insider knowledge: marrow bones. Split lengthwise, roasted in a hot oven for 15 to 20 minutes until the marrow is bubbling and jiggly, finished with sea salt and a little parsley gremolata, served with crusty bread. This is a dish that costs almost nothing, takes 20 minutes, and tastes like something you'd pay $30 for at a bistro in Paris. It is rich, it is deeply umami, and it is one of the oldest luxury foods on earth. Don't sleep on the bones. So here's where we land: beef cheeks for silky, gelatinous braises; oxtail for the most soul-satisfying stew you'll ever make; hanger steak, the cut every butcher used to hide from you, for explosive beefy flavor at a bargain price; flat iron for the tenderness of a fillet with the character of a ribeye; and marrow bones, because some of the best food on earth costs almost nothing if you know where to look. The forgotten cuts are back, and honestly, they never should have left. Drop your favorite underrated cut in the comments right now. I read every single one. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss a bite, and next time on The Meat Authority, we're going somewhere unexpected. The world's most extreme dry aging facilities, where some people are aging beef for over 200 days. You will not believe what it tastes like.